You recently joined a lot of other academics. You signed a letter demanding that elite institutions and universities stop accepting money from fossil fuel companies. Is that correct?
This is correct.
You consider Tulane an elite university?
I would like to think that we have a high standard of excellence in our education and our research.
Okay. Well, the Murphy family of Murphy Oil and the Deming family of Murphy Oil have recently given Tulane $25 million. Have you called on Tulane to give that money back?
Well, it's not, they didn't give that money to my unit or the department or school that I work
Have you
with.
called on
sir.
Tulane? The Commons contribute more to climate change than a McMansion in Houston? You were pretty quick to criticize the people of Houston for wanting to build, you thought, McMansions, but you don't criticize your own university?
I don't find that to be equivocal comparison between space meant for students who must reside at a university.
You don't see
and
the
those that-
hypocrisy in that?
It is your finding and interpretation, sir.
But you don't see the irony of the hypocrisy.
I've got to say, this is one of the most incredible takedowns I've seen in a long time. The way Senator Kennedy laid out the facts, one after another, exposing the clear double standards at play here, was just masterful. It's a perfect example of how you hold someone accountable for their words. This isn't about climate change. It's about hypocrisy, pure and simple. Professor Keenan talks a big game, signing letters and criticizing others. But when the spotlight gets turned on him and his own institution, his arguments completely fall apart. We're going to dive deep into exactly what went down here. But before we do, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you think about this exchange.
Professor Keenan, you teach at Tulane?
Yes, sir, I do. I have that privilege.
And you have your own website, KeenanClimate.com, is that right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you describe yourself on your website as a globally recognized thought leader. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you give paid speeches, do you?
On occasion, I do.
You have your own agent, I believe, according to your website, Lee Bureau.
This is correct.
And how much do you charge per speech?
It varies depending on the audience, the amount of preparation work that goes, and the amount of follow-through. Usually,
The last paid speech you gave, how much did you receive?
I'm happy to follow up on.
You don't remember?
I do not.
Do you give that money to Tulane?
I do not.
You keep it?
Yes, this is outside of my capacity as a professor.
Right. Have you called on Tulane to give that money back?
Well, it's not, they didn't give that money to my unit or the department or school that I work
Have you
with.
called on Tulane to give that money back, or you think that's okay for them to keep it?
It's their prerogative, not mine.
Okay. Yet you just signed a letter saying that all elite universities should refuse fossil fuel money. Did you put a footnote in there and say, except my own?
Well, what I'd like to say, Senator, is that I believe it raises a conflict of interest for those that research climate change that are supported by the fossil fuel
Yeah,
industry.
but then why don't you ask Tulane to give the $25 million back?
Well, I think in the context, if that money were to be used to support climate research, information, disinformation, or whatever it may be, then that may be an appropriate conflict of interest. But I think in the context of which
You don't
Tulane
see
is
the
doing,
hypocrisy here?
it is a hypocrisy in those that may read and interpret it as such. I see
Maybe
it-
it's like Washington. If there weren't double standards, there wouldn't be standards at all. Let me ask you this. You also participated in another article here criticizing Houston for building new buildings and McMansions. And you said, I'm going to read your quote. I don't want to misquote you, Professor. That means we have to change our consumer preferences. You could have a super efficient, energy efficient mega mansion in Houston or the suburbs, but it's still a mansion. You're still over-consuming space. Did you say that?
Yes, sir. That's based on work as a member of the IPCC. Our research suggested that reducing our footprint in terms of total spatial footprint would have significant impacts in the decarbonization of the built environment.
And so you're saying that people should live in smaller houses because larger houses contribute to CO2 emissions?
100%, Senator.
Okay. Well, recently, Tulane finished the Commons. It was 77,000 square feet, $55 million. Recently, Tulane finished the Gold Ring Woldenberg Business Complex, $35 million to complete, 92,000 square feet. Boy, that's a McMansion. Musafir Hall, 23,000 square feet. Paul Hall, 36,000 square feet. Richardson Hall, 50,000 square feet. Housing redevelopment phase 1, 230,000 square feet at Tulane. Have you called upon Tulane to stop these buildings?
Sir, the habitable space within those units are roughly the size of the conference room back there and are indeed quite small.
But they contribute to, does...
Everything that we do,
Does
sir.
the Commons contribute more to climate change than a McMansion in Houston? You were pretty quick to criticize the people of Houston for wanting to build, you thought, McMansions, but you don't criticize your own university?
I don't find that to be equivocal comparison between space meant for students who must reside at a university.
You don't see
and
the
those that-
hypocrisy in that?
It is your finding and interpretation, sir.
But you don't see the irony of the hypocrisy?
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Okay. I kind of gathered that would be your answer.
Let's break down why this hearing is so compelling. First, Senator Kennedy starts by establishing Professor Keenan's self-proclaimed status as a globally recognized thought leader. This sets the stage perfectly because a thought leader should be held to a higher standard of consistency. He then brings up Keenan's paid speeches and his income, which is a subtle but important point. It shows that Keenan is profiting from his opinions, which makes his later arguments even more suspect when they appear to be self-serving or conveniently selective. The core of the senator's argument begins with the letter Keenan signed, which called for elite universities to stop accepting money from fossil fuel companies. This is where Kennedy delivers the first major blow. He points out that Keenan's own university, Tulane, just accepted a massive $25 million donation from an oil company. Now, you would expect a thought leader who just signed a letter like that to have a strong, immediate response, right? But what does Keenan say? He says it's not his prerogative to tell his own university to return the money. That's a huge contradiction. He's happy to tell other universities what to do, but won't hold his own to the same standard. His justification that a conflict of interest only exists if the money is used for climate research is a complete cop-out. Money is fungible. A donation frees up other funds that can be used elsewhere. The second part of the senator's masterful argument is even better. He quotes Professor Keenan's own words criticizing McMansions in Houston and people's spatial footprint. It's a classic move, using a person's own words against them. The senator then pivots to Tulane University, listing all the new, massive buildings on campus. He's essentially saying, you criticize private citizens for building large homes, but your own institution is building these enormous, expensive structures. Where is your concern about the environmental footprint there? The professor's response that the buildings are for student use is a flimsy excuse. A building is a building. It requires energy and resources regardless of its purpose. The final moment, when Senator Kennedy directly asks if Keenan sees the irony or hypocrisy, and the professor flat out says, I'm going to go ahead and say no, is the most telling part of the whole exchange. It's an admission that he knows he's been cornered and has no good defense. He's not interested in a genuine discussion. He's only interested in maintaining his narrative until someone exposes the logical inconsistencies. This video is a powerful lesson in how to use facts and a person's own words to dismantle a hollow argument and expose a clear case of do as I say, not as I do.